we're going to be doing an at-home spa evening. So this lecture is a little bit different than our others. I still tried to provide some, hopefully you can see me because the sun's behind me. Maybe I'm just a face in the dark. It's okay. Mainly it's about the lecture. So we have more of an interactive lecture today. So what that's going to mean is there's going to be a little less time at the end for questions. So if you have questions, put them in the chat so we can kind of rapid fire them at the end. So this is what we'll be doing. We'll still do our interactive polling. I included some foundational concepts so you guys can start to build your Ayurvedic knowledge. And we'll then do an exploration of Ayurvedic massage and oiling, which we'll have built up to. And then hopefully you all brought some kind of oil that you can use, because we're going to do a live demo. And we're actually going to have Harmeet come in, and he's going to get the foot oiling so that I can do the process with you. So he's definitely psyched for that. You can also use a partner that's in the area if you don't want to do your own feet. But we'll go over the types of oils, but really any oil for tonight is fine. So feel free to join us. You can turn your camera off if you're feeling shy. You don't need to point your camera at your feet anyways. I don't need to necessarily see them while we're doing it. And then you can ask some questions if we have some time at the end. So I'm gonna start my timer, and here we go. So the foundational concept we'll be building off again is very similar every week, right? The biggest concept in Ayurveda, everything's made up of the 5 elements. So you've heard this over and over, and the hope is through repetition, even when you go out and talk to others about Ayurveda, which I hope you're doing, you're like, look, it's like made up of the 5 elements, because you've heard it so many times. But we're going to go a little step deeper. We've talked about the 5 elements related to the doshas. We've talked about them related to the seasons. We've talked about them related to the different tastes. And now we're going to talk about them related to the Gyan Indriyas. J-N in Sanskrit is spelled G, like Gyan Indriyas. So these are the knowledge perceiving senses. And what are they? They are the ears, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, skin. So these are the things where you take in knowledge from your environment, right? It shouldn't be surprising. You all understand that you take in sound through the ears, sight or vision through the eyes, and so on and so forth. But in Ayurveda, it's a little different because we actually connect them to the elements, right? And we're kind of trying to build our bigger picture. So what I wanted to do is actually just start right off with a poll, because most folks are joining us not for the first time. So what I wanted to do is have you think a little bit and kind of tune into your own intuition. You might not know what ears are connected to as far as the elements, but take a guess. So I'm going to launch the poll, and you guys are going to start your guesses and think about what element out of the 3 that I gave you is most related to each sense organ. Oh, and I see that Joy and Lisa joined us too. Hello, both of you. So about 14% of folks, or just actually 1 person out of the 8 who are on, has voted, 2 now. So just type your things in. Fine to be taking guesses here. We haven't went over this, so it's kind of a free-for-all. And you'll find out in a second how close you were. So I'll give you about another 10 seconds. So press your answers in. Hopefully nobody's having challenge with the poll. Again, if this is your first time doing a poll or a poll seems to not be working, you might have to check your preferences. 71% in. So I'm going to close out the poll now. And here we go. So we can see, share results. There we go. So here we can see most folks thought the ears were related to space. And you are correct, right? The ears take in sound through space, right? And the reverberations that sounds make on the eardrum. So that is the case. The eyes are related to fire. So folks were a little confused. What are the eyes? Because the eyes do have water in them. It's not like they're just elemental, and they do see space, but it's actually most related to kind of the processing power of the eyes, right? And actually a lot of people talk about the eyes as generating heat, right? They'll have like a lot of heat in the eyes, or really intense eyes might be angry, right? These are just some fun examples. Here we have nose related to earth. So that one was kind of a trick one, right? I mean, it doesn't seem as intuitive because we take in air through the nose. But actually when we're smelling scents, they're actually all made up, all the scents that we're getting are made up of earth, right? And we did the one, could have given you a hint, which was when we talked about a lot of sinus congestion, we talked about the earth, right? Principle and trying to balance that. Then we had most related to the mouth, water. So again, so some of these are throwing people off. It's, you know, a lot of you kind of have to develop your Ayurvedic intuition. It's a little bit different, but as you go through, stuff starts making more and more sense. So water, the start of the digestive tract, right, has a lot of mucus, and all the enzymes that are in the mouth start to break down your food. So most connected to the water element. In skin, there was a tie, what you thought is air or water. So the folks who had air, we were going in that direction. So it looks like kind of 50-50, like we had some ideas, people were willing to take some guesses, which is good. We'll close out that poll. And we're going on to we're only having 2 polls, but they're right at the beginning. So this one is actually now jog your memory, right? So you know now what sense organs are connected to what elements. Do you remember what doshas are connected to those same elements? So we'll put that one up, and then I won't make you do another poll tonight. So get in your answers now, because this is your kind of, aside from the actual spa night, this will be your interactive piece, and your questions at the end, I guess. So think back. Remember, we talked about kapha, we talked about vata, related to all the different lectures. I'm not going to give any hints because we've talked about this each time. So I want to see how much folks are retaining. So it looks like one of the 8 of you has voted. See if you can remember. So we've talked about a lot of different balances for vata. I'll try to relate it not in a really just an obvious way, so it doesn't give so much of a hint, but we talked about vata related to stress. That's the hint I'll give you there. We talked about kapha is related to seasonal allergies. What season? That's up to you. What are the elements of that season? 5 out of 7. So last few folks go in, and I'll give you about 10 more seconds, then I'm going to close it out. And I'll end the poll and share it out with you. Okay, let's see our guesses. So most folks guessed ears were connected to vata, and that would be correct, right? Ears were not ears, but vata was associated with space and air, right? It was this ungrounded energy. And we talked about related to stress, because stress can feel ungrounded. It's not like depression where it's like so grounded, where you're like really, you know, kind of stuck. Pitta was related to fire. Let's see what we put here. Most folks had pitta. So that was, pitta was related to fire and water, right? We thought of that as a little opposites, but there you are. Nose was related to kapha. Everybody got that. So everybody might remember the seasonal allergies lecture. We've talked about a lot of kapha, different things. Water was kapha. So water is also pitta, but mouth is most related to kapha. So I would give you points because the way I phrased the question, right? Which dosha, well, which dosha is most associated with the mouth? It's kapha, but which dosha is most associated with water? It's actually still kapha because we associate pitta mostly with fire. I think we talked about that actually last time when we talked about what were the tastes that balanced, and we talked about that. And then we have the last one, skin, vata. Yep. Air, so air and space. So stop sharing that. So this was our little review and what we're going to build off of. So here we go. So we're going to talk about skin today, right? We know that we're doing some type of Ayurvedic treatment. And some of you have read a different post, and you can kind of sense that we're going to be doing something with oiling, right? So vata or vayu, that's what it's in the traditional text. They talk about a lot about vayu because vata is most associated with the wind energy or air energy. You can translate it either way. So it's associated with the skin. So hopefully your skin doesn't look as dry as this guy's does, but I liked this picture because it was kind of like air and, you know, dry skin. So it seemed like very vata to me. So this was from Charaka Samhita. And we're just going to review a little the qualities of vata. So vata is rough, cold, light, subtle, mobile, and dry. So these we had talked about a bunch, and remember we've always been using, these are called gunas. We've always been using the gunas to balance, right? If we see some type of too much dryness, what do? We balance it with the opposite, some oil, right? So the opposite qualities are here, right? So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be looking like, okay, we have skin. If the skin, which we know is associated with vata, if vata is too high, or we just wanna kind of maintain the skin, we would do it with these opposite qualities. So what can we do for our skin? So daily Abhyanga, which is oil massage, is recommended in Ayurveda. So that can be hard to do daily, but the idea is at least even in the summer, doing it once a week, right? This would be a regular like routine for your skin. They have different routines for actually every different sense organ. And the idea is you need to nourish those sense organs so they can still be working at their highest rates, right? To take in all the information you have to during the day, and also to not throw off the inner balance that's inside, because this is kind of like the senses are interaction with the outside world. So they have a lot of different things that it says. Remember, Charaka Samhita is written about 3,000 years ago. So the wording and the way that they translate it might be a little different, but it's said to ward off old age, which we all know how oiling or putting all kinds of different hydration into our body or on our skin can help ward off kind of the signs of old age. Daily oiling can help with the aggravation of vata. So if folks were experiencing from that sleep lecture, the lack of sleep, we talked about foot oiling, right? As a way to calm down, right? That air energy and ground it, and bestows nourishment to the body and good, strong skin. So what I wanted to mention here too is that in Ayurveda, when we look at actually diseases, right, overall, it's interesting because there's actually 80 diseases associated with vata, only 40 associated with pitta, and 20 with kapha. Now, it doesn't mean diseases in Ayurveda, because it's a classical text, are actually, they're grouped very different. It's like you can think that there's thousands of diseases. How would Ayurveda only have this many? But the fact is they're constructing a category of disease. So you can say like this is 80 categories of vata diseases. And the reason why I wanted to mention this here is because a lot of times you've heard me talk a lot about vata, because a lot of things come from stress, right? And vata is very associated with this kind of like really airy, anxiety-prone energy. But additionally, if you think about it, when you think of kapha, it's grounded, it's the youthful stage of life. Pitta, we talked about middle stage, vata, older stage. And a lot of the diseases we see actually, progress later in life. And they're associated with this lack of stability, right, in the body, or lack of nourishment in the body. Kapha is all about nourishment. Vata's dry, right? It's a lot more mobile. So there's a bunch more diseases associated with it. I say this just because, a lot of these practices that target vata early on before there's disease states, which will all eventually have some type of disease state or imbalance, if we don't already, can be really helpful. Hydrate and bring nourishment to our largest organ. So this is kind of like a little more Western, which is like the skin's our largest organ. So, we want to make sure that we're taking good care of it. You hear that a lot, at least in the US. So why oil massage specifically and not lotion? People ask me this all the time. They're like, could I just use lotion? And I'm like, no. And people are like, oh, because they're much more comfortable in the West, right? Like just throw on some body lotion. So I did want to address this before we went right into oiling, because people oftentimes are trying to, get something that's quick, right? So oils have the exact qualities mentioned as pacifying vata. So they're considered the best choice. So if you see when we were back on that slide, it said, what is vata? What are the opposites? All of these are the opposites, and they're actually found in oil. So everything in Ayurveda is trying to think of like, what is the best substance that could be used to pacify whatever our issue is. Lotions are typically water-based, which means they aren't readily absorbed by the skin, and they don't possess as many of the vata pacifying qualities, or maybe just not as high of an amount, and I'll explain that. You can see most of them, I've underlined the ones that are associated with pacifying vata. So stable, heavy, moist, smooth, and gross are all ones that you see above for oils. The only one that's different is water is considered cold, right? Most water, if you find out in the environment, it's not like hot. But the thing is that it's not only the fact that it has this cold element in Ayurveda. I gave some examples below, which everything exists on a spectrum. So I want to put this in I want to bring in some examples to try to get you to think a little bit about the difference between a water-based lotion and an oil. So if you think about these carbs that exist below, you know these are all carbs. They're all very different. You would not say that these M&Ms or donuts and the thing are the same as maybe the oats or the bread that's up top, right? So the same idea exists about what could be used, what types of oils could be used to bring this nourishment that we need to pacify vata on the skin, right? It exists in a spectrum. There are oils that are really nourishing, oils that aren't as nourishing, and lotions, right? Lotions would be kind of like on the lower end because they have this water element. Same thing with fish. I put like a salmon, and I think this might be like a cod or something here. But the idea is we all know that they're all falling in the category of fish, but they're different types of fish. They have different amounts of oil too, right? Like you might really use cod to pacify something, but you want to use salmon for something else, or to pacify maybe some type of craving you have, right? There'd be a specific food you'd be looking for. The same exists for pacifying vata located in our skin, is what Ayurveda would say. You know, you have this spectrum and you try to pick what Ayurveda suggests and what's been tested over time to do it the quickest and have the biggest effect. So we're going to go a little more into the practical side. When should you do Abhyanga? So we know Abhyanga is the oil massage. We haven't talked about what oils, which we'll get into, but a few important things to note with an empty stomach. So tonight might be an exception. It's like right after dinner time. We're not going to be doing full body oiling anyways. We're just going to be doing some oiling on our feet. If you choose not to do it too, that's completely fine. At least you'll have seen the technique. But you want to do it really with an empty stomach. The idea is that the skin needs to digest the oils, and you don't want to, and if you're trying to digest your food in your stomach, you don't want to take energy away from that digestion, right? You want to prioritize the stomach's digestion. Later on, when the stomach's empty, 2-3 hours later, that's when the skin can start digesting, right? Everything that comes in through the senses has to be digested. Avoid outdoors for at least an hour. So the idea is here, we live in a very vata-provoking climate. So it might not be every single day, but a lot of our year is cold and windy, at least in New England. So the idea is you've done all this nice oiling and you've opened up the pores, you've allowed things to be absorbed, vata's happy, it's warmed, it's feeling, stable. And then all of a sudden you go outdoors and it's like winds blowing on your skin and it's cold and the pores are upset. So the idea is like, it's a little bit, I'm like personifying the pores, but the idea is that like avoiding things that are aggravating to vata right after, because you just did this nice practice. So if it was a hot day out, maybe it'd be fine, but our climate is so variable with the weather that it's best to think about it being like an activity where you're going to be in a little bit more. It's traditionally done in the morning, but it can also be done at night to relax before bed. So it's usually a part of a dinacharya daily routine that folks would do for sense care in the morning. We haven't talked so much about sense care, but we will be talking about it in our Foundations of Ayurveda lecture series, the 8-part series. We'll be going through each, how to clean and tend to all the senses and kind of elicit health in them. But for this, you can do it in the morning, which I'll show you the process, or there'll be a slide to show you that. But it can also be done at night as long as it's not right next to a meal, right? And it's very relaxing if done at night. The only thing would be to say is if you have too much kapha, too much earth and water element, and that can be expressed in many different ways, but it's that kind of like heavier element. You might not want to do it at night because it increases heaviness, right? Heaviness in the body, lethargy, if you had any of these kind of symptoms. So the ideal process, this would be like if you had all this equipment, and it's not all necessary, but like this is what is recommended in the text. Well, not this box thing, but this is like a modern invention. So the ideal process would be if you have high kapha, you would do some dry brushing. So they actually sell these raw silk gloves. You can also get like this kind of like brush thing. And what you'd do is you'd actually brush yourself, like your whole body. One, get off dead skin, but the idea is to start moving around lymph in the body. So that would be a practice. I do it every day in the spring, right? Because spring is high kapha. I also am more of a kapha prakriti, or my constitution has a strong kapha presence in it. So I do that in the morning, and it's like a quick thing. So that's an option. Then the daily oil massage, you can do it without the silk gloves, which I do in the winter. I don't use the silk gloves when I don't need them. And here's some counterindications which you can read about. So it's not recommended with active skin rash. So if you had a skin rash, you don't want to trap in that skin rash with oils, right, that are heating. During menstruation, they wouldn't say to do it because the body's kind of trying to shed things, right? And you don't want to like keep it in. Pregnancy, I still do, I don't do a daily oil massage, but I do a weekly. So the idea is like with the pregnant woman, they say leave her alone, right? Let her kind of like, don't have so many things going into her. Just keep things normal and like happy. So I only do it once a week, but it's not completely counterindicated. You would just do it a lot less, not as much pressure on the skin, and when sickness is in the body. So the idea is if you had a cold, or God forbid you had COVID or something else, you wouldn't be doing a lot of oiling because again, the body needs to shed that. You don't want to keep these thick oils on, right? The body can't process that. The Agni, or the fires in the body, are lowest when you're sick, right? That's why too, you can't digest as much, or you don't crave as many foods. You kind of just like have some tea, right? Your body's natural intelligence tells you that. So the same thing would go on with oiling. Sweating is recommended afterwards. In India, it's really easy to sweat after because it's so hot. This little sweat box, which they do in India, where you kind of like go in this little box and you can see the pressure cooker on the side and like connect you to a pressure cooker. It was really intense when I first did it. I was like, I'm in like this, they actually put the towel over my head and it was so hot in there. I was like, am I gonna get burned? I'm being like steamed by a pressure cooker. And my mom, who's on this lecture right now, is probably like, oh my God, I can't believe she did that. But anyways, so this is not me, it's some guy who I just grabbed a photo of, but these are like little steam boxes. And the idea would be is that the pores are more open and the oils can come in. And you can do this just by taking a bath, right? You don't need your own steam box. If you want to get a steam box, cool, invite me over. I'd love to see one in the US. I haven't really seen one. I've seen steam rooms, but you don't want to be slipping and sliding everywhere in a steam room. So, and then shower. You can do a shower before if you wanted, if you had a really light oil and you're going to leave it on. I typically shower afterwards because like my oils are heavier because I tend to be cold, so I try to use some heavier oils. So the idea would be is I just kind of do a light shower afterwards. Here are some recommendations. So people have asked me a lot for these. What recommendations would you have if you think you're more prone to one body type, or let's say it's a certain season and you want to match your oil to that season? So here they are. You're definitely welcome to take a screenshot of this. I'll probably pull this off too and put it on our blog and send it out to you. But I tried to make bold the ones that are most recommended. So sesame would be the typical one recommended for Vata. So that would be fall, winter season. It's thicker. In the summer, using sesame is so hot. So like even myself, I tend to be more of Vata Kapha Prakriti. In the summer, I'm not using sesame. It's like too much. So you can kind of make some decisions yourself. Some people don't like the nutty scent of sesame, so it's up to you. Pitta is most associated with coconut, right? It's cooling, right? It's a much lighter oil. If you were not going to shower afterwards, coconut might be the way to go because it's not going to feel as thick. And kapha, I put sesame too. Some people associate with castor. There's mustard and almond here. And then I just put some fun things in, balancing essential oils, some that are cooling, warming, all these kind of things. We're going to use some tonight. This is not in the Ayurvedic texts. Like, well, actually the ones that I highlighted are traditionally associated with Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. The other ones like cassia, clove, those are ones that essentially I've related because of the qualities. But they talk a lot in the classics, in the Ashtanga Hridayam actually, about what scents you should burn in each season to, for example, in Pitta season, Usera root and jasmine to cool down the environment or to make you feel cooler. And then I put some things on the right-hand side about, what kind of massage maybe would be best for each. Just knowing the different gunas present in each. So here we are, and my client, Harmeet Singh, has not arrived yet. I'm gonna have to go grab him and he'll set up his phone. But I'll leave this up in case some people do want to take a little screenshot. Here he comes. I think because he's on the lecture, so he's probably just like, I was doing something different. But so we're going to turn around. You ready, Harmeet?
No.
He's not ready. Okay, he's setting himself up. So does everybody have their oils? They do or don't? Yes. Okay, so he's gonna set himself up. I'm gonna give him 2 minutes. So why don't we take this time, if you have some questions before we do the oiling, it's a nice time for you to ask those, or we can go back to slide if you wanted to see it again. And then he'll be all set up because he's setting up another camera because it's gonna be hard with my computer. So does anybody have any questions that have come up so far? Maybe you've tried oiling and you know, yes, you have some concerns.
Heated my oil by putting it in a jug of warm water. Is that correct for the feet as well?
Yes. Okay. So that would be great. So if you, and I'll actually turn on my oil too, because so what I have is a little, and you'll see it when he sets up his computer. It's actually a Mr. Coffee mug warmer. Like costs like $12, I think, on Amazon. And what's nice about that is you can leave it in the bathroom, put your oils in, do all your other stuff, start your tea or whatever you want in the morning. And by the time you get back, it's not going to ever overheat because it's a mug warmer, but your oils are warmed enough to use. But hot water is fine too. It's completely good. So think of your questions. I'm going to turn my oil on while he's setting up. Hold on 1 second. Okay, oil's on. Any other questions from folks? Okay. You about ready, Bobs?
2 seconds.
2 seconds, okay. Okay, so what I would say, so since I'll keep talking while he's getting ready, the things we have, and I'll show you when we have it set up, we have a bucket with hot water in it. You're welcome to get that while we're waiting. We have some Epsom salts put aside. If you have those on hand, that's kind of fun to put in the water. We have a few essential oils. You can pick your own. You can grab some if you have some that are on this list. We have our oil, and then in the mug warmer. You'll likely also need some type of towel because your feet will be oily and you'll want to have a towel for afterwards. And I think we have some paper towels too in case something fell. And we have a candle just for ambiance.
Can you pin my video as you share the screen?
Yep, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Share your screen, but pin my video, so my video is kind of photo.
Okay, I'll pin, Hermit's telling me to pin video. Okay, yeah, I pinned it.
I don't see it.
Well, it's only pinned on my screen because I have to stop sharing and you have to share your screen. Okay, then I'll move on over. Okay, stop share. And I'm gonna do this. So
what you do,
can you see on the screen?
You put this over there.
Okay. Yep, putting it in.
And then on the...
This is our first time doing a live spa, so.
Perfect. And on the right hand side bottom.
Right side bottom.
Left side bottom. There's a start video. Go to video settings.
Start video.
Video settings. And
yep.
Perfect.
Can you see it?
Which video did you select?
Mine says Hermit Sing on it. Can people see Hermit's? Maybe unmute somebody so you can see if you can see Hermit's screen.
No, you're not supposed to do that because I gave it to you, Maya.
Okay.
Okay, do that now. Keep doing that.
Okay, nope, we can't see your screen, Hermit.
Huh?
Okay.
I'm supposed to do that. Hold on.
1 moment, please.
Okay, now start sharing a video.
Okay.
No, that's what's happening.
So can everybody see Hermit's area now? Perfect. So if I talk like this, will everybody hear me?
Yeah, so.
Okay.
You can bring your
I'm going to bring my computer over, but my screen's not shared. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay. Hermit, you ready?
You can adjust this camera.
Okay, good. Sit down in your spot. Okay, so our guest of honor has arrived. Hopefully everybody give me a thumbs up if you can hear good because I'm going to be a little further away. Okay, perfect. So hopefully you have all your oils. And I'm going to, I don't see your, oh yeah, I see your screen. Okay. So here we have our, I'm gonna put it in front of the camera. Here we have some Epsom salts. We're using this oil, which is called Dunvantarum Tylum. I can write that up in the chat afterwards. It's a really lovely vata pacifying oil made of sesame. We have some essential oils, peppermint and cypress we chose. And then we have our, I just put my oil in the cup. And you can see we have a little, let's see if I can bring it over. Yep, I got it. I show them. And a little essential, it's like a Mr. Coffee mug warmer that I mentioned. So this, I already have it on and it's warming our oils here. Yep. Okay. And I do have a, okay. Harmeet, can you sit down? That way we can get going.
Tell me if this is the right angle.
Oh, yeah, that angle should be good.
All right.
Good. Okay, so here we have Harmeet, and I'm gonna take his, he's gonna pull his pant legs up. Let me push this here. And he has little, whoops, he has little slippers on. This spa is dangerous here. Okay. Now we just see his leg. It's okay, that's, okay. And you see, yeah, perfect, that's perfect. Oh, and it fell. It's okay. Okay, so we see he has little spa slippers on, maybe you have some too. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our oil. Harmeet, you can take your slippers off. And the reason I'm demoing on Harmeet is because since I'm 7 months pregnant, I don't do a ton of foot oiling, right? It's not a process recommended because there are a lot of pressure points or nadis, or you can say like marma points on the feet where you wouldn't really be doing this as often. Your feet over. Yep. And
Wouldn't you just show your video instead of Harmeet's side?
yep.
Pin your video. You
Okay.
have to just switch it. The way you put me on the
Yep.
video thing, put
Pin
yourself
it?
back. Double click your video.
I don't see my video. It's okay.
Wherever you're seeing this.
Oh, okay, I get it. Yep, okay. Pin video, got it. Okay. So here we go. Sorry for these few delays. So I warmed the oil and I'm gonna put up some, maybe you can move it back a little. Yep, good. That's good. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we warmed the oil in a ceramic dish and we're gonna spread the oil onto the base and the top of the foot and each toe and ankle. So here we have it, here's my oil. So it's good if you have some type of rag or towel that you don't mind getting a little bit wet. I think they're seeing it. Yep, that's perfect. Okay, so I'm just spreading the oil here and being generous with the oil, making sure to go on each toe. Okay. And it should smell pretty nice. Then we're going to begin to start to work the oil into the foot, starting with a motion around, circular motions around the joint. So what we'll do is we'll start by starting with each toe. And so you can see, we'll start with big toe. Hopefully you guys can see over here. I'll check my screen since I have a few things up. Yep, everybody can see, good. Okay, I'm just gonna assume you can see the rest of the time unless you tell me, so I don't get oil over my computer. So here we go, and we're just gonna make circular motions. Right? Usually I like to spend about 3 to 5 minutes on each foot. You can set a timer. So here we go. A lot of times too, in between the toes will get really dry. And so just in the case with this lovely foot, but it can be the case. And we'll put a little more oil and just make circular motions. And you can bring it right up to the top. If you know that fancy like click thing they do at the spa, you can do that. I don't know how to do that. Mine's like the basic foot oiling. And all the way to the pinky toe. And here we go. You can press each little nail. And then what we'll do is we'll massage the entire sole of the foot using some circular motions. The idea here is we're trying to move the lymph, we're trying to warm up the foot, right? A lot of what pacifies Vata is that warm sensation. And we know that Vata also likes to feel grounded. And how many of us won't feel grounded after we go for a spa treatment, right? We feel so relaxed, so soothed because we kind of paid attention to the nervous system. And maybe some of you guys are following along with your own oils, hopefully. And then what we're gonna do is we'll take it and we'll start massaging the top of the foot, right? And so we all have those bones where you can feel the bone in between each toe. It's called the carpal bone, not like metacarpal, but maybe it's pedicarpal, I don't know. You can feel those bones and just start making some heat in between them. And rub, rub, rub. And then what we'll do is we'll come up to the ankle bone. You can actually go all the way up your shin if you want it, all the way up to your knee. For tonight, we're just gonna go around the ankle. And again, around each joint, you're always making circular motions. And we're just oiling that joint. So really what they talk about, although this is not my area of expertise, but I do know that aromatherapists talk a lot about pregnancy and places on the outer ankle bone and the calf as being trigger points, as well as the outside of the pinky toe. So I can touch them as much as I want because Harmeet's not pregnant, but for those of you out there who maybe or have friends and you want to recommend Abhyanga, it's just best for them to know that there are sensitive points and they probably want to consult with a professional, like a massage professional, not, I don't know if a Western doctor would necessarily know. And so there you go. So that's one foot done. So I'm gonna put his foot down and I'm gonna bring over the hot water bath. We had some hibiscus. So he put some hibiscus in.
Check the video.
Yeah, I'll check, hold on. Put your foot in, please. And I just don't wanna get some oil on my computer. And here we go, I'll just check to make sure you can see everything. Yeah, you can move it back a little. Yep, so you can see the hibiscus. I'll dump some. We probably would have put this in earlier, but it's okay now. We'll put a little bit of our Epsom salts and our essential oils in. There's our peppermint. And really it's a nice process to do. You don't always have to do the oil, you always have to do the oiling, but you don't always have to do the water bath. But if you want to do this and then you sit and read a book, you can sit and watch a movie with a friend or spouse or on your own. It's a nice relaxing thing, especially in the evening to do. It can make you feel like you have a little spa at home when you've had a nice day. Feels like a little treat. But if you don't want to do this whole process and you're like, actually I'm not into the hot water bath, or you're doing it for cooling, let's say you have high pitta or it's summer, best thing to do, everybody's waving to you, hello. Best thing to do in the pitta season would be use a cooling oil, just put socks on over it, right? Or put your feet in a cold water bath, right? If you're having some night sweats or anything like that, that can be really nice to go to bed cooler. So those are some options. I mean, why are you showing my pregnant belly on the thing?
I want to show your face. Is that okay?
Yeah, but they already saw my face a little
Okay.
while ago. They don't need to see me again. I'm gonna do your other foot. Okay. So can you, is that how you're gonna hold with camera now?
No.
Okay, perfect. So now we're just gonna switch feet, right? We're gonna do the same thing. So if you're following along and doing your own feet, so here we go. So we're just getting the oil onto him.
Is it important to start with the right or the left, or is it random?
I just do it randomly. I haven't ever read in the traditional text about a left or right. It's not like Nadi Shodhana, where you're starting with a specific nostril because it's activating a nadi. This is more about getting the oils on. So I think either one will be fine. So here we have, yeah, this is a good time if you have questions, unmute yourself and we can ask right along. So here we go. I'm starting with the toe joints again. And making those circular motions. So if you were going to do a full body oiling, you would do the same thing. You'd start at the toes, work your way all the way up, and then you can go around each joint. So it would be the knee joints. You'd work around your, as you come up to your arms, your wrist joints, all the joints would be circular motions. And we're getting close to 7:45, so I'm gonna.
Some questions?
No, somebody said you look very relaxed. So I went around the toes, pressing on each nail, right? Moving. So we also, like, the idea here is you're warming up the feet, you're moving some circulation. And then I'm gonna go to the bottoms here, right? And I'm gonna do circular motions on the bottoms. Okay. So funny story is when we're in India, we go to see an Ayurvedic doctor, and always the Ayurvedic doctor is like, oh, Emily, you should have more oiling, more massages in your life, like all these nice things. So I always walk out of the appointments and I'm like, Harmeet, the doctor said that I should have more massages and all these nice things. He goes in and his doctor's like, take away that, no more this, no more this. So I'm like, oh man. He gets all the tough recommendations. I get all the like spa treatments. So here I am now at the top. We're gonna go in between the joints, right? And you can make this as long or short as you want. If you have just a minute or two, and you just wanna get them in the hot water, fine. Let it soak in then, right? And just because we have limited time tonight, we'll go around the ankle bone, right? Circular motions. And we can put it in the hot water. Let's move this aside, put it in, wash my hands, and dry them off so that I can touch the computer, and put this up. And so now, Harmeet, usually like when we do the foot baths, we have 2 of them, and usually leave it in for at least 10 minutes. I'll often do a regular bath, so I'm not always doing it in this little tub, although these tubs you can get off Amazon. You can also probably get a bucket in the hardware store, but you want to make sure your toes and feet fit comfortably in it. Can you grab me a paper towel back there, Bob? And I'm going to turn back my video on.
You can just put it on top of it. Just put it on top
Okay.
of it. Okay.
How do I clip it?
Just put on the edge of it.
Yep.
That was done right. No, hold on. Yeah, just put it, rest it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. And press it from back.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I don't know what you mean by that, but can you do it for me? Or no, you can't. Okay. I got a little on my computer. So it's okay. So here we go. Let me just, my video's on now. So we're at 7:45. Do people have questions now? Did anybody follow along? You can unmute yourself. Anybody, I see some people whose screens aren't on, so maybe they were doing oiling. Or any people who are thinking about trying it and want to know a few extra tips or have some oils they want to ask me about. Everybody feels satiated just watching you get your spa treatment.
Yes, Harmeet looks very comfortable. I did ask a question in the chat about something that contains goat's milk, and it's probably not really oil, it's probably more of a lotion, but I know you didn't really go like lotion, but I hear goat's milk has the same pH balance as your skin.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what you thought about that.
So I haven't, actually there are different oils in India that have cow's milk and goat's milk, and they're supposed to be very super hydrating for you too. So if it was an oil that had this property in it, and it was appropriate for your prakriti in the season, because if it was a really heavy oil and you're using it in the summer, like an oil with goat's milk, maybe that might be, you might experience other effects from it, right? Like too much heat or too much of those kind of properties. But if it's a lotion, then we go back to the lotion comment.
Right.
Is it a better lotion though than maybe a lotion that's all water-based? Probably, I would say probably. So yeah, I mean, if you have it around, even at the next lecture, bring it and I can just take a look. You can show me.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No, people are good. Okay, so let me go back onto sharing my screen because we did have a final. Here, let me go. Okay, share. Okay, so hopefully people can now see my screen, which I am playing. Okay, so here we go. Here was the process, which I'll also put on the blog. So if you guys didn't try it tonight, but you want to try it at a different time, or you want to try it on somebody else, like I did on Harmeet, because you don't want to do it right this second, that's fine. Here you go. Good for relaxation, sleep, stimulates and invigorates the organs, at least the largest organ, which is the skin, stability and circulation. We did Q&A. Next Tuesday's lecture, actually Britta is on the call tonight. Her video wasn't on probably because she's doing her oiling, but she will be talking about next week painting with spice pigments. So really great lecture. Bring your artsy friends. I know some of you, at least one of you on the calls, an art therapist. So this will be definitely interesting to you. Other ones probably have dabbled in the arts or have a creative spirit. So she's going to be showing you how easily you could use the spices in your cabinet to make pigments, and then to actually paint with them, and what additives you can use to make more texture in your paintings. So just a fun way to experience spices. Ayurveda is all about experiencing the outer world and seeing it in your inner world, and kind of making these new frameworks, right, with nature. So this is a great option for that. And then other happenings, we're starting our 8 weeks foundations course. So this will be starting up on June 4th. Great for going deeper into the concepts, right? So you can apply them to your own life and all the different things that you might see in your life, your spouse's life, your friend's life, your kid's life, whoever's lives you want to make critiques on using Ayurveda, come to the lecture series and you'll learn how to do it. And maybe you can turn them on to some of this nature-based science. And then we have weekly meditation classes. David has been actually attending some of those, I know, and some other folks have dropped in too, who I might not be seeing right now because I only have my video up. But on Monday evening, 6 p.m., drop-ins are welcome. So all that is on our website, and also I kind of send long emails often, so you'll probably see it there or on Facebook. So without further ado, just want to see who else might have jumped on. Okay, hello. Now I'm seeing Britta she's back. I don't know if she's doing oiling, but you'll see her next week, and we're so excited to have her. Thanks for joining, everybody. I hope you feel inspired to oil, and we'll see you all next week. Harmeet, you want to jump in too? I don't know if we can see you. Yeah, over there. Bye. Thanks, everybody. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.